God bless you, and thank you for joining in with us today for Changing Experiences with Pastor Derek. I am super excited to be with you today, and I hope you're ready. We have a power-packed show in store for you today. Changing Experiences is about real people sharing real stories and allowing unprecedented access into their lives as living disciples for the glory of God. We are fastly approaching the 2016 election season. Across the nation, voters are preparing to make a very serious decision about who will be our elected officials. Each election year, we are inundated with propaganda and forums that still leave voters unmotivated and sometimes unaware. Over the past few years, my ministry has worked to increase voter education to our membership and the community, and we continue to do so again this year by gaining new voters and adding to the knowledge base of longtime voters. According to the book of James, the first chapter, verse 22, it says, "But be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourself." Voting is the key to any election and a way to voice your approval or disapproval with candidates or even with amendments. I want you to tune in for today's show. It's going to change your life. Today we have with us LaShawna Tyson, a resident of Orlando, Florida, a rights restoration activist, and an ex-felon who depends on the votes of her friends and families to have her voice. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm super fantastic, super excited to have you today.
Thank you.
With us on our show. You have a very interesting story to talk about when it comes to, when it relates to voting. Can you just share a little bit about that with us?
Yes. When I was released from prison in 2011, they made me sign a paper saying that I wouldn't vote. And I couldn't understand why. And at first I refused to sign it, but then I did have 2 extra years without the gain time that they told me I would have to stay in prison if I didn't sign it. So I signed it because I wanted to go home. I couldn't figure out why they would take away my right to vote. The judge didn't sentence me to that until I was released back into a society that didn't want to offer me a second chance. I couldn't go back to college. I couldn't get a job. I became a realtor, and I was told that I can't rent for 99 years.
Wow.
And so, as a person who used to vote before I went to prison, I understood that if I did not have a voice in the voting system, then they can do me any kind of way, and there's no way that I could fight back. However, I quickly realized that I think the state of Florida made the biggest mistake that they could with me by taking away my right to vote, because I sent 26 people to the polls.
Wow.
26 people who weren't thinking about voting. They didn't care anything about any of the candidates. But they did it because I couldn't. And I asked them, it doesn't cost you anything. Could you do it for me? And it was like, okay. And then I drove them to the polls.
Wow. With
the list that I gave them of the candidates who I researched. And so, in essence, I voted 26 times instead of that one time that they took away from me.
Now, that's an amazing story. That's an amazing story. And when we see this society now, and we see how low our voters turnout tends to be, just tell me, what does that make you feel when you see that people that have the right to vote, people that can do so, that just does not take that liberty to go forward and take that next step to make their voice heard? How do you feel kind of about that situation?
It saddens me. And sometimes, especially last year, it angered me that people didn't go to the polls and vote. They had no idea that when they decided not to vote, they were still voting anyway. And it angered me, because we had our ancestors who died for our rights to vote. And we sit around here now and they just don't even see how important and powerful the right to vote is. I try to talk to everybody everywhere about the importance of voting. That is your only voice that you have in this society. And I get it from a lot of people. Oh, they don't do nothing for us, but you don't You don't demand that they do anything for you. And the way that you demand it is you go to the polls and you vote.
One of the things I found also is that sometimes we tend to vote only on the candidates that's considered to be sexy candidates, meaning the national, the presidents, and
Yes.
the national senates.
Yes.
But we tend to miss those common votes, those ones that mostly impact our communities,
Yes.
which is like our commissioners and our mayors and our environments. We miss out on those local amendments and some of the local judges. And I think that we have to get to a place of educating our people more about the right to vote, because I hear so often as well, just like you do, that, well, my vote doesn't count anyway. And that's one of the biggest myths ever told. I think sometimes we don't have certain things in our neighborhoods because of the fact that they don't know that we really care enough, because they don't see our names on the ballots that we've actually voted in that district area as well. And so it really encourages me to see how you had a determination that said, I will not let a signature stop me from moving forward. That is amazing. Where did you find that drive? Where do you think that drive came from out of you? Because you were a voter before you went into prison.
Yes.
And so when you came back out, you wanted to vote again. I mean, you were one that you voted on all the levels. You
Yes.
voted for every time an election took place. Where did that drive come from with you to say, you know what, you're not going to defeat me by telling me that I need to sign this paper and stop my vote from taking place? Where did that drive come from?
I don't let society paint my picture out here. I know that I'm a child of God, and no matter what I've done, no matter how hard I've fallen, He gave me a second chance. And I believe with all of my heart that I am somebody. So therefore, people's words won't tear me down. I am better than I've ever been. And nobody's words or nobody's views are going to take me to a place that I've never been. Even when I was in prison, I was somebody, and I'm still somebody. And that's where that drive comes from. I've always been a fighter. I grew up in a household where I had to fight. I've always been a fighter, and I'm not going to stop fighting now just because I have been convicted of a felony. I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to let them win. What I'm here, I know that I had to go to prison in order to see the way that criminal justice system is set up. And I'm here to teach each and every person with a felony, that you have to believe that you are somebody. No matter what you have done, you are somebody. And don't let them make you believe that you can't vote. Because if 10,000 of us got 20 friends and family members to go out and vote, we could swing an election. And if we could swing an election and affect their job, they're going to start coming and asking us, what do we want? What kind of jobs do we want? Housing and all of the issues that we're legally discriminated against. I think that is the game changer.
And I've heard restoration of rights so many ways, different ways. I have never heard it the way you just put it to us. And it is so impactful, it's so powerful, it's so motivating as well to see that there is always a way. And I also love the testimony that you gave. And you talked about the fact how you've never been a quitter. And you believe that God allowed you to go through those things to learn, because the only way we can correct mistakes and we can correct situations is we got to come in and we got to begin to see that sometimes God will allow you to be in an uncomfortable place just to come back to save somebody else. I mean, sometimes God will put you in some of the most unpredictable situations. And when we look at those, we can say, why did you do this to me, God? I'm reminded kind of Moses, how God allowed him to go from the palace. And after he went from the palace, he became literally a convict. He was escaped. He was a refugee running from the law. But we find that God calls him back and says, I got purpose in you. And when I hear your testimony, I am so encouraged by how you're standing today and what you're doing, how you're making impact, how you're making change. Because you know what, even going further than what you've done, you've also empowered somebody else, that now you don't have to go back to those same 20 anymore to vote. You can find another 20 because those 20 are going to always remember that they encountered the testimony of Ms. Tyson and you changed their lives. I am super excited by what you've done, and you've encouraged so many others that it is possible for them to go forward and do something great. Just talk to us one last time and tell us, in your closing words, what would you like to see people do this year for election?
I would like to see people actually go and vote. As to your statement earlier about, African American people. I got it a lot when I was out doing GOTV work that, oh, they don't do nothing for us. We don't care nothing about voting. But I think that it is you who do not require them to do anything for you.
That's right.
I always try to put myself in other people's shoes, and so I see a lot of black people saying that, oh, the Democrats, we don't care nothing about, they don't do nothing for us. The Republicans don't do nothing. You don't require them to do anything. And I'm going to say something that maybe you have people who are just Team Democrat. Team Democrat. I think that the way that we as blacks can make voting work for us, where we can see some real benefits from it, is to not be Team Democrat nor Team Republican. I think that we have to shut the lights off so they don't see which way we're coming, but they need to know that we are coming stronger than ever.
Well, I definitely thank you so much for today, and I believe that some great things are going to happen. You've encouraged me today. You've encouraged me to push more people to definitely get involved in the election process. And again, I thank each and every one of you for teaming in with us. I want you to make sure that this year you're getting involved to vote. We're getting ready to come back with some other guests on the show as well, and it's going to be a great time as you hear more about what's happening in this electoral season. God bless you. We'll be right back with you.
Bible study was amazing tonight. We were just talking about positivity. You know how just keep yourself out of negative situations. If somebody's your friend, you have their back.
Tonight's Bible study was awesome, informative, right to the point, showing that God can do anything but fail.
Torture. I look around, there is no order, and I see the walls go up, guarded by the pleasures, greed, and all our lust. Can't hit you, 'cause we're too busy trying to shun you. Building mansions filled with pride, loving everything that will destroy our lives. I'm stepping out, running from this mode. Rip off the blindfold so I can see clearly. I'm walking tall, heading to that goal. Yes, I can with your power over me. I'm gonna break down these walls. I can see them tearing down, and I know that we can win with the Lord who's on our side. Come on and break down these walls. Take back our identity. In Him we know that we are free. So rejoice in victory. As the walls fall, hypnotizing into deep, can't walk away. Telling lies to steal your joy. Oh, heart of stone, He plans to take control. I'm stepping out, running from this mode. Rip off the I can see clearly. Oh, yes, I can. With your power over me, let's set the captives free. I'm gonna break down these walls. I can see them tearing down, and I know that we can win with the Lord who's on our side. Come on and break down these walls. Take back our identity. In Him we know that we are free. So rejoice in victory. As the walls fall down, walls fall down. Strongholds broken, strongholds broken. Walls fall down, walls fall down. See them falling, see them falling. Walls fall down, walls fall down. Strongholds broken, strongholds broken. Walls fall down, walls fall down. See them falling, see them falling.
Wow, I'm telling you, I was blessed by that, and I know you were as well. Stephanie Wool, keep looking out for her. Walls Fall Down. That was a phenomenal song. We'll be right back with Changing Experience with Pastor Derek right after this break.
Bible study was amazing tonight. We were just talking about positivity. You know how just keep yourself out of negative situations. If somebody's your friend, you have their back.
Tonight's Bible study was awesome, informative, right to the point, showing that God can do anything but fail.
We're back, and I am so excited to have my friend and my brother to be with me today. We're talking about none other than Pastor Chris L. Walker. Man, how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Doing great.
Man, it's good to see you. Your schedule is super busy. God is really opening up some amazing doors for you. I'm seeing you everywhere. Literally, you're coming to a city near you. That's Chris L. Walker right now. And so I'm super excited, man. The book is doing phenomenal, man. How are things going in your life right now?
It's going great. I mean, God is doing some phenomenal things with our ministry, of course, with the book, and just dropped a new CD. And so things are going good. It's a good year.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know you've been singing a long time, man, doing some amazing things, and the family's doing well as well.
Yeah. Family's doing good. Getting ready to be a grandfather.
Wow.
I know I'm very young, so no.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll be a grandfather in 2016. Yeah.
Man, that's super fantastic, man. You have this book, man, that's just literally sweeping everywhere. It's out everywhere. Lemons to Lemonade, and it's a phenomenal book. Just tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write such a wonderful book.
Well, Lemons to Lemonade is really a personal story, a personal testimony of mine that really wasn't going to be a book. I just kind of wrote it down to kind of get it off my chest. 20 years ago, I was a worship leader at a church and married with 2 kids. And I found out that one of my kids was not Junior. And my wife walked off with another gentleman at that time and left me with a 3- and a 2-year-old.
Wow.
So I ended up homeless, sleeping behind Winn-Dixie in the city of Clermont, Florida.
Wow.
And not knowing that 9 years later, God would have me go back to the place I call pain and birth a church. Wow. So I pastor 1 mile from where I used to be homeless.
And
right
you
now.
know, it's what's amazing about that is so often people see the end of our stories.
Yes.
Or they see where we've arrived.
Right.
But they don't really remember what
Right.
we had to go through to get there.
Yeah.
And so, man, it's just amazing to see how at that time you couldn't see this day.
No.
You couldn't see what was going to take place later on, but God had something else
Yeah.
that he was already preparing for you.
Well, the average person, when they're going through, the reason why I want to write the book is I wanted people to understand that you can turn sour seasons into purpose. And so, because you never know what you're going through and why you're going through it until years later. And sometimes God has allowed you to be cut, squeezed, and shaken so that somebody else can be refreshed.
Woo, that's preaching.
And so that's what the book is about, you know. And one day I was going to a church to preach this message, and God told me to go by a store and get sugar and lemons and water. And I quickly realized that our lives are like the process that lemonade goes through. Number one, you got to have lemons. You know, your problem is the main ingredient to your success.
Wow.
And so, and then you got to be willing to be cut. You know, diamonds, you can't appreciate the brilliance of diamonds until they have been cut.
Right, right.
You know, and David even said, it was good that I was afflicted, that I might know your ways.
That's right.
And some of us would have never known God the way we know him now had we not been cut. You know, and then you have to be squeezed and shaken and stirred. And one of the things that I have a quote in the book by Vance Havner, and he says, on our medicine bottle, it has shake well before using. So sometimes God's got to shake us well before we're ever usable. And the last chapter is the presentation. This is when I hold up a glass of lemonade after it's been processed. And now you've been shaken and stirred and cut and squeezed so that now when somebody sits in front of you, you can be the refreshing that they need because you understand the process.
And I think that's kind of where God has the church nowadays.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going through some serious struggle seasons.
Yeah.
And I believe that the struggle seasons that we're experiencing is because there is something else for us to do once we finish with this season of our life.
Right.
And we have to just remind ourselves that, and I love what you said, that that the some of the pains and the strains of our life, that's the lemons.
Right.
And you know, lemons, some people like to suck on bitter lemons, but you know, I want to get to the sweetness of it. And sometimes I got to go through the things that are uncomfortable for me right now. But who's going to benefit from this when I come out?
Yeah, because you don't know you don't know why you're going through that. You know, I talk about Marvin Sapp in the book. Marvin Sapp is one of the greatest recording artists that we have in our time. And a lot of the hit songs that he's recorded, we love them because they minister to us. However, all the songs that were hit songs for Marvin that we enjoyed that lift us up were birthed in his lemon season.
Wow.
When his wife died of cancer, his father died, his father in the Lord died, and those songs were birthed out of hurt and pain, but it wasn't about Marvin. God knew we needed a song. And so Marvin was cut so that we could be refreshed.
Wow.
I talk about Scott Risby. He lost both of his legs in a tragic accident. And instead of Scott sitting around saying, well, somebody's going to push me around in a wheelchair, I'm going to be dependent upon everybody, he decided to take his pain and turn it into purpose. And he won the World Ironman competition twice with 2 prosthetic legs. So he wanted to show everybody he's the poster child that just because you've lost your leg doesn't mean you have lost your future.
Wow, that's good.
And so that's what this book is about. It's about teaching people to turn their pain into purpose, you know, and to squeeze purpose out of it, because all of us go through something not for us, but it's always for the season that God has appointed for you to reach other people.
Man, I'm so encouraged by just how life is happening for you and all the things that God is doing, the doors that he's opening up for you. And not only are you an author, man, you're also a singer. We're going to get you back on the show to come and sing. But you're also venturing out and doing some great things also and helping make effective change in our communities.
Right.
You've been really petitioning and you've really been rallying, and not only pastors in the Central Florida area, but all across the state of Florida to get involved with you. Man, congratulations on your first win already that we've had already up in Tallahassee. And I believe that God is using you. And just like you said earlier, sometimes you got to go through some rough times. And everybody won't like change. Everybody won't like when you stand up for something good.
Right.
But I am so encouraged by what you're working on. Just talk a little bit about where we are right now with the things that are happening with you and Representative Plakin. Just talk to us a little bit about how God is still showing himself in the midst of this.
Well, you know, sometimes, again, you don't look to jump into something, but God puts you in it. And I was watching television like most people the day that the Supreme Court decision came out, and I said to myself, how did we get to this point?
Right.
You know, we're asleep. And so I decided to file a petition to protect pastors from lawsuits and discrimination and the same-sex marriage. And I really didn't think it was really going to go that far. I just thought I'd file it because I was upset. Little did I know, 2 weeks later, we had 27,000 people and 24,000 to date that have signed the petition to protect pastors. Now, it hasn't been easy. It's been a battle. Amazingly, I thought I'd have a lot of resistance on the LGBT side, which I have had that, but I've had resistance from the church world as well, which was more amazing to me than having resistance from the other side. Because I'm quickly realizing that there are a lot of people who are now evolving.
We've heard that terminology a lot when it comes to Christendom. And one of the things that we're doing today, this show is talking about rallying us to get out and vote. And we understand that it's great to have church services. It's great to worship on Sundays, and we should do those things. But I think that God is calling us in this season to go a step ahead as well by us really rallying our people together, coming together to vote. And if we do not get out in front of the issues will stand out in front of us.
Well, it's time for the church to get out of the church, get out of prayer meeting. Well, prayer is powerful. We need to pray. But the Bible said watch and pray. So there has to be action with you praying. And I believe that, you know, most people say separation of church and state, but I think if we need to get back in the state. And we need biblical principles back in the state, because the Constitution was written using Scripture. It was signed by Baptist ministers. And so we were, in the beginning, a Christian nation, and we need to fight to get back to that, because that's why we're such a blessed nation. That's why we put in God, we trust on our money.
That's right.
And if we get away from that, we're going to reap the consequences. So.
Man, well, I definitely appreciate you coming on today. I appreciate all the work that you're doing, and I am praying for you. But not only am I praying for you, I'm standing with you. I plan on going with you next time you go up to Tallahassee, because I believe in the same cause that you believe in. I want you to make sure you go out and support our brother with his book that he's doing, Lemons to Lemonades. Make sure you get it. Don't bootleg it. Go buy it, and make sure you support him. And also, we're going to get him to come back and sing for us as well. I thank you again for joining us for another episode of Changing Experiences with Pastor D. I pray that this broadcast is blessing you. Tell somebody else, join in with us. God bless you. Have a fantastic day.